Hey guys, it's Mel. Today I want to talk about INTJs and stress. For the most part, INTJs are known for the fact that they kind of thrive in a stress environment and take on more stress than other personality types. Me personally, I think it's a combination of both my personality type and also my childhood and family of origin, that I pretty much view stress as my safe place, and it's like a security blanket that I wrap around myself and I feel comfortable there. It and I think part of that is the fact that it helps me focus. Like the pressure from the stress keeps me focused on one thing, and then I end up in a ditch on either side of, like, if I don't have enough stress, then I'm not focused on anything, and if there's too much stress, then I lose focus and I'm all over the place. And somehow that healthy balance of stress keeps me focused and therefore makes me feel safe. One of the things that INTJs gather over time is the fact that healthy worry yields results. And so that's part of the reason why we'll take on extra stuff and extra stress, in knowing that that kind of creates that results. So for INTJs, that involves a lot of future speculation and planning. Basically, if you plan for everything, then you can thwart failure, or at least, remedy it quickly. So even if this doesn't happen, or this does happen, that we have a plan B, C, D, E, and either way, we have some kind of control over the situation, which at the root is the fact that INTJs just need control. We want control over everything, and we view the best way to have control is to know what's going to happen. And that makes us at least feel like we have control over everything, because we know what's going to happen, and therefore we know what to do, we know how to respond, and we have control, and we don't feel out of control or surrounded by chaos. INTJs work hard to control stuff, so we usually work really hard to control anxiety, which I did another video specifically on anxiety that you can check out. We also work really hard and can step outside ourselves and kind of look inward and self-diagnose and self-direct ourselves. And that's the way that we kind of control addiction, which I also did a separate video on that you can check out. The best analogy that I can think of would be dominoes. So if you think of a very elaborate setup with all the dominoes lined up, and you have them in, rows and circles and everything, that's the best way that I can describe, the quote-unquote masterminding of life. Is that we're over here like INTJs, like some people just go through life just doing whatever, and INTJs are over there like strategically and very precisely stacking all of these dominoes, so that when you are ready to tip them over, it is absolutely beautiful, and every single one of them falls exactly where they're supposed to hit the next thing, that all of it goes according to plan. And so the thing that stresses us out most is when somebody thwarts that, if something interferes with the dominoes, whether another person takes one of them, or one of them doesn't fall the way it's supposed to, or we're over analyzing where to put it, like all of those things. That's where the stress comes in. It's like where it's affecting our little domino presentation. So things that typically stress out an INTJ, of course, like the obvious one is the disruption, the interruptions. Anything that doesn't go according to plan freaks us out. Chaos. If it's not planned, if I don't know what to do, yeah. Excessive human interaction, or the other side of that, just not having enough alone time. We like to be alone, we like to be inside our heads, and if we get overwhelmed with social stuff, it's traumatic. Unfamiliar environments, or having some kind of sensory overload, that can be overwhelming. And it seems kind of contradictory, but a lack of creativity, being caught in tradition, like, doing redundant systems or things that we view as illogical, those stress us out too. And sometimes people may not see the difference between that, but it's about, abstract versus reality and sensory. Of we want everything unfamiliar and to like be creative and go outside ourselves in our mind, but in reality, in the sensory, in the touching world, we like everything to be the way that we know, and be familiar with it, and we don't like to be overloaded with everything, like the sensory outworld stuff. Also, our skills, our vision, our competence, any of that being questioned, judged, unappreciated, unrecognized. Yeah, we do like validation just like anybody else, but we kind of go after that for our intelligence, for our competence, for our vision of the future and everything that we have in our mind. And then emotional expression. Having to be in a situation that's really emotional and dealing with humans, that can stress us out. And then also just lack of focus, lack of direction, lack of vision, not knowing where we're going, which is both a cause and an effect of stress on an INTJ. So what can we do to deal with it in a healthier way? The first thing that INTJ is going to do and should do is to get away from other people and to be alone. We like to analyze everything logically in our head. And the other side of that is reducing the sensory. So getting away from all of the entanglements of other things, other people, other noises, like getting away. People close to me call this my recluse state. It's like recluse smell is here. But that's one of the ways that we process with things. And you just have to learn when the point is where you have to go beyond that and do something else. The major thing is just the fact that our stress often involves that battle between what's in our mind and what's in reality. And everything that we plan and all the dominoes that we stacked up, we expect flawless results of everything. And when it goes awry, we're like, we're trying to reconcile what was in our mind and what actually happened in real life. So get away and think about it yourself. And then when you're ready, if you need to, talk out loud. And I mean, you might be able to do this by yourself. I don't usually do that. I have to get around somebody else. I have found in my life that most people can't handle that, of me just dumping everything out loud and they can't follow it or they're overwhelmed by it. So pay a therapist and go and talk. Most of the time I've seen when I'm like, I pay them $150 so that I can talk for an hour, and usually they don't say anything because I talk myself into the solution. It's all about having to talk it out loud, and maybe one day I'll learn how to do that myself in my house, because I was like, I don't really need anybody, I don't need any feedback, I just need to say it out loud. And sometimes that just connects the dots of like, oh, well, there's the solution that you've been chewing on in your head over and over again, but you just needed to say it out loud. Lightening your schedule. I'm a workaholic. I overload. I'll do everything, keep myself busy, not sleep, not eat. It's really important, especially when you get lots of stress, is to go in there and cut out all the things. And the first thing that's probably going to go is anything that involves other people, of the, community service projects or group organizations and things like that. Like, cut things out of your schedule so that you can find time to rest, and specifically to find time to sleep and get replenish, have time for your mind to refocus when you're asleep too. Getting outside, I find that this helps me a lot. I like to get away People go on vacations and go to places and travel around and do things. I like to go to a cabin in the woods with no cell service and no Wi-Fi, and just go out into the woods and build a campfire and be in nature. Somehow that's like so much more soothing as far as like outside sensory world, for me personally, of just kind of like breathing and relaxing in nature. The other thing that can be really helpful is focusing on a small problem and solving that, because sometimes when we get stressed out, the INTJ kind of loses self-esteem, of like it's a downward spiral. It can be a very quick downward spiral to depression. And if you're unsure of yourself and you're like, oh no, like I planned this and it didn't work out, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I've lost my magic and I don't have my mojo, and like I'm never gonna do anything right ever again. So focus on something small and do that. Like find a little problem so that you can solve it. And in a way, INTJs are kind of like masters of illusion to some extent. Like we utilize our focus to focus on a problem and solve it, and when we do that to ourselves anyway, we're ignoring everything else. We're compartmentalizing our life, and we super focus on one thing, and then in that way, when everybody look over here, and you don't see that over there. And so we've kind of like separated everything, which you'll see a lot of times, like INTJs get all focused in their work or projects and things like that, and their social life or relationships are on the back burner. And so you kind of redirect the focus. And if you start to get super stressed out and heading towards depression, sometimes all of those things kind of collide, and you're not able to juggle all these compartmentalized parts of life, and they cave into each other. So you have to get back to that state of being able to juggle everything. So revert back to the magician mentality and go and focus on one thing, and don't allow everything else to like cave in on you solving one problem, so that you can gain the confidence to move on and do something new and keep moving forward. And then the last thing that we need to do, and it's helpful, but like I at least like want to do, is connecting with feelings. Because again, one of the things that's probably going to bring it on is humans and feelings and all that stuff. So watching movies, reading books, listening to music, things that might trigger emotions. Sometimes, you have stuff going on inside of you and you're not dealing with it at all. So making that connection. And I did another video about dealing with emotions, and you can check that one out. And I'm working on ones about specific emotions. What can you do if you're a friend or a bystander of an INTJ that's stressed out? Top things, validate their feelings. INTJ's feelings and emotions are like toddler level. And you have to understand, like, we're brash and we're bold and we're stomping all over everybody else's feelings all the time. But ours are like super fragile. So when we get stressed out and we're crazy and everything, like, we need you to tell us that it's okay, and not be like, you're over dramatic and you're going way out of proportion, because it doesn't help. Like, we're already upset because we feel illogical and messed up and broken, and then somebody else kind of reiterating that makes it worse. So if you're going to help, you need to validate us, and remind us that we're human and that it's okay. Don't tell us what to do. We like to solve problems, but we like to solve them ourselves, and now is not the time to be like, well, I'll step in and give you advice and tell you what to do. We're stressed out because we feel like we're out of control. So you coming in and telling us, hey, I know what to do, you should do X, Y, and Z, makes us feel even more out of control. So it's just adding fuel to the fire. It's not helping. So step back, and unless we ask for it, sometimes we can get like overwhelmed and everything, and we're like, I don't know what to do. And ask for an outside perspective, but don't offer it. It will probably just make us worse. And then the last thing is just to try to treat them as normal as you can, because we're overwhelmed and we feel like we're not ourselves, and it's frustrating, and having other people adjust and treat us differently, again, like the others, is just adding fuel to the fire. So those are some of the things that you could offer your INTJ friend or family member, if you happen to get close enough to them to know that they're stressed out, or that they allow you around them, because we're probably in that recluse state and avoiding you. But you know, that's the best thing that you can do to help. Basically, like in summary, like most normal human beings have this threshold of stress in every day that they can deal with. And the INTJ's capability of handling that everyday stress is like on a high level. And so we're used to it. But most of the time, like if we start to get to that point where we're getting higher and higher, we're actually like really close to the level of hitting depression. So most of the time you're not going to see the INTJ just be like, stressed out. Like we'll go right over the edge into being like extremely depressed. And, you know, because we kind of self-diagnose, a lot of times we can cut it off at the pass, so to speak, and, you know, take care of our stress. We just step back, evaluate it, and move on. But when we don't, we go right into depression, and like everything else where we kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater, we just go to extreme. It's all or nothing, 0 to 60 very quickly. INTJ way. So anyway, those are some of my thoughts on stress and how to deal with it. And thanks for watching, and I'll look forward to chatting with you next time.